It is automatically understood that when they talk about the fruit of this, they're talking about the results of our choices. It is a metaphor in every other instance, except Genesis, where they suddenly declare that the trees were made out of wood and that you could make pies out of the fruit. But
Okay,
you're saying now that it was a choice of whether they could live a long and healthy life or whether they were going to succumb to evil. Thank you for pointing out that it was just a fable with a moral and a metaphor, and that they weren't trees. You couldn't cut them down and build canoes.
Okay, thank you. Everything you say is relevant to the law of love that I've explained, and I've said
I don't doubt that.
It's falsifiable in the fact that if you can give me an example of life that exists without giving, you falsified the law.
No, Luke.
And I can give that example.
Even if you could give that example, it doesn't falsify the law, because first you have to actually establish and define this. You can't just call a foundational principle of the natural order a law of love. Hey, guess what? When I drop this, stop.
Call it what you
Stop. When I drop this pen, it's going to fall. That's something we can test for and falsify it. But I don't get to call that process love and attribute it to a God. That's the part that you can't test for.
What you're talking about is an assumption. And it's a baseless assumption if it doesn't have evidence.
You admitted earlier that you didn't have evidence for it.
I admitted I didn't have evidence for the law of love.
Yeah, you didn't.
Okay, Webster's definition defines the law as I'm using it as a statement of an order or
you're done,
relation
Luke.
of a phenomenon.
Luke, congratulations. Luke, congratulations, you're done. And I'll tell you why, so that next time when you call in, you don't make this mistake. Dictionaries describe usage. And when we're talking about philosophical issues of epistemology, and when we're talking about scientific investigation and the nature of laws, you don't just have to pull up Webster's as if it's going to add some validity to your logical fallacies. You made arguments from analogy, you started changing around labels, and you have convinced yourself that this is all evidence. And what you're actually engaged in is a grand argument from ignorance. You look around at the world and you see order, and you simply can't think of any other way that this order could exist without making an appeal to a God. It's an argument from ignorance, and it's demonstrable. And I don't care if you pull up Webster's, Funkin' Wacknalls, or Rand McNally and draw a map. It doesn't add to your argument. If you're not going to put out things that add to your argument, you're done.
You've also said that it was a law. A law is demonstrable without faith. You said it was falsifiable and then admitted that it clearly was not. It should be, you've failed the criteria that you yourself have laid out. And then the only evidence of any sort, the only indication that you ever had, the only thing that you said ever implied at this point to you at all was a misinterpretation of a passage in an old storybook that you then later admitted was a metaphor. I think you need to rethink your position.
I didn't admit it was a metaphor.
Yes, you did. And
well,
fortunately, these shows are recorded so that you can go back and play it and say, aha, that's where I did it.
I'll even let you off the hook and just say that in the confusing circumstances, you said something that you can later take back if you don't think it was a metaphor. It's neither here nor there. You present something that has, your argument has no teeth, no evidence, and when called on it, you first admit there's no evidence, then you try to present something, then you're going to dictionaries.
No, I said I have no evidence that life existed before where animals didn't have to kill each other. That's all I say. The law itself is separate to what I say then.
It's not a law just because you say it's a law. Something doesn't become true just because I say it's true. Look, I'm surrounded by naked cheerleaders. It doesn't work that way.
A law is a statement of fact that is verifiably accurate under all or under a given set of circumstances by all observers. You're definitely not talking about that.
By you and everyone. Everyone could have observed what I've said. Everything needs to give, otherwise they die.
If it is a law, it will be observable by everyone.
The things that you're observing and the examples you provided, I agree. They are consistent with what you're saying. And what I'm saying in response to that is, so what?
Okay, you believe that...
Hang on.
Okay then.
You have provided examples of something. That in and of itself is not sufficient to establish that there is a law with a designed purpose, which is your intent here. If all you're saying is that there is order in the universe, we already agreed with that. If all that you're saying is that in the circle of life there is life and death, we already agreed with that. What we're saying is you can't get from here to here. You can't get from the bee takes pollen from the flower in order to pollinate another flower and then say, this is because some intelligent being created a law that this is the way things work. You can't get from A to B.
I wasn't going to say that. I was going to go gradually and show you that there's another law additional to the law of love.
But the law of love doesn't exist, and you did say that earlier. Go back and watch the show again.
Okay.
You did.
We have two options. Either they came about naturally or they came about by an intelligent designer. And if I can demonstrate...
Well, actually, we have only one option that's ever been indicated. We've seen that evolution happens. We know that it happens. We can measure it. We can watch it in real time, in real life, under controlled conditions. There's no question about that. Evolution happens. Your options are that if there is a God, the intelligent designer drives evolution. Or if there is not a God, that's okay, because evolution doesn't need it.
In fact,
you're adding a completely... Hold on now. You're adding a superfluous assumption, one which you admit is based on fables in lieu of evidence.
Okay, you are free to believe as you wish, and so am I.
Well, thank you.
And
I'm glad I got permission from Luke.
Yeah, and I was just presenting to you what makes me, what I observe and see, and then look at this and then think.
The sad thing, Luke, is that you didn't present me what makes you believe that.
You know what?
You have an assumed conclusion, but you never explained why you assume your conclusion.
Your whole argument, and I know you won't see it this way, but honestly, this is accurate, can be distilled to, I look around and see this, and I can't think of anything better to explain it than God. Well, guess what? That's not an argument.
And it certainly isn't a law.
Yeah. And on that, I guess you can try again another week. I got to go. We only got 25 minutes left in the show, and there's people still waiting on hold. As a reminder, we'll be going to Threadgills after the show's over. 301 West Riverside Drive. Any atheist or atheist-friendly person is welcome to come down and join the show. You don't have to be a member to do that. And we'll be down there having dinner, and you can join us as well. We've got Jeremy in St. Charles. How you doing?
Hi. I had two questions, if I could. My first was, I think that there's a lot of bias in the American media in regards to favoring Christianity. And did you guys see this ABC News story?
Yep.
Okay, so you already know what I'm talking about?
I already wrote about it.
Okay, well, it fails to mention that the robbery didn't stop because the woman was talking about faith.
Correct.
It stopped because he thought he was going to have to pay for the money he stole. Well, not him, but the woman would.
Correct. It's exactly what I wrote on my Facebook yesterday.
Yeah, and it spends like 5 minutes talking about how the woman talked to him about like Jesus and her faith, which is true, but it spends 5 minutes talking about that, and then it spends 5 seconds mentioning the fact that he went off and robbed another store.
Oh, I hadn't heard that part yet.
Yeah, he went off and robbed another store, and that's when they caught him. So it even...
Yeah,
so
the headline...
Like, even bring up that, and it mentions like the other thing for like 5 minutes.
The headline was "Woman Stops Robbery with Faith," and it should have been "Compassionate Woman Stops a Robbery with a Lie."
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we have another similar story from about a month or so ago. I think it was about a month or so ago. It could have been a little bit longer, but we have Jack Sparrow. I forget the name of the actor right now. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. But the guy who played Jack Sparrow is mugged in an alley, and then he's recognized. Johnny Depp. And when the mugger realized who he was, no, I'm not going to rob you. I'm not going to steal from Captain Jack, and left. So there you go. The power of pirate movies.
I mean, and how stupid is that? Because if anybody could afford to be mugged, it'd be Johnny Depp. I mean, the guy's loaded. All right, what was your other thing?
Oh, my question was, it was about like news coverage. There's been a lot of news coverage over a Muslim mosque that is being built 2 blocks away from where the World Trade Centers fell. I don't know if you've heard about this or not.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the city of New York is trying to stop